That's where we see the opportunity, is that streamers need content. Every day they wake up, they say, I need content, I need something. And so by giving more tools within the social gaming ecosystem, the goal is to appeal to streamers. And by winning over streamers, you win the war.
Hey, what's up, you guys? I'm the Nerdy One, and this is the channel where I use video games to make sense of the blockchain. Now, I have a really exciting episode today. I have a really special guest on the channel, Elliot Wainman. He is a top-tier content creator on YouTube on all things Web3, the founder of the 𝗡𝗲𝗍 ecosystem, as well as the founder of Impostors, a social deduction video game that's currently implementing blockchain technology. Really, really cool stuff. So welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'll go ahead and introduce Nerdy One, who Christian is one of the best content creators we have in our community, an amazing community member for Impostors. And I've gotten to watch his growth as a Web3 content creator. We DM a lot, and I've just been encouraging him to stay at it. And his videos lately have just been super, super fire and keep getting better and better. So, definitely make sure you're subscribed, keep that bell notification on for Nerdy One, because he keeps getting better.
Thank you, brother. That means so much to me, just because, for those of you who are unaware, I'm very new to the crypto space, but I got into it because I actually came across Ellio's content on YouTube. His whole, his sincerity, really talking about the whole crypto space, especially gaming itself, which actually leads me to my first question. Why is it that you really got into the space, and why is it that gaming is what you're pushing forward so much? It kind of shows in Impostors, in your content. What is it that gaming that makes it so different that you're so passionate about pushing this forward?
Yeah, that's a good question. So my first, I guess, growing up, I was always a gamer. I've always been a gamer. The only reason why I don't play video games is all the time is because I feel like sometimes it's not the best use of time to play games all the time. Some people, they can make a living out of it. And I certainly hope that Christian is able to do that. But yeah, I guess growing up, I was always just sort of told you can't really make something of yourself if you're playing video games all the time. But I'd always play video games pretty almost too much, right? I would always play too much, and I became really obsessed with multiplayer games. I'm sure a lot of people watching this content will have had that same experience. When I got into crypto, it was in 2017, and it was really just a sort of a rabbit hole of, I was in startup tech since I was in college. The first company I worked on was a mobile gaming, educational gaming company. So it was games to learn language, and you were learning different languages through playing casual games on your phone. That really opened my mind to gaming being kind of a different type of product. I learned a lot about mobile gaming and just learned a lot about sort of modern gaming business models. And then I ended up working with a tech incubator where the lead of that tech incubator, who's the CTO of the Impostors, the team behind Impostors, and my business partner, is one of the most hardcore gamers and knowledgeable gamers I've ever met. And when we got into crypto together in 2017, we saw all these different sort of blockchain-based ideas, and the top 10, companies, Airbnb, Uber, whatever, those were all being mimicked in blockchain already. And when the market crashed in 2018 and everyone left crypto, we sort of had that, ho-hum moment. And it's kind of what's happening right now, where people are going, oh, maybe people weren't really using this stuff. Maybe people were just kind of speculating. Maybe it doesn't make all that much sense when the number doesn't go up. And all of a sudden, that kind of reality that mainstream adoption isn't here and it's not quite ready yet sets in. And that's what set in 2018. And we started saying, okay, well, how can we keep people when the number goes down? Because we know for a fact that the number will go down at some point based on the way crypto is. How do you keep people in that scenario? And we went through every product category, and we just kept coming back to gaming. And we're like, look, if there's a fun game and there's crypto components, then who cares, right? Who cares about the price of the crypto if you like the game? And, obviously the example that we used was Fortnite. That's what was popular at the time. And it was really clear to us that if skins were NFTs, that would be it. That was just step one. And then, we saw a lot of interesting models around Axie's success kind of come to the light. I'm not sure that those are really the future, but that's how we got to gaming. Was we obsessed, both developers at heart. And in 2018, it became really clear that the only thing that was going to keep people that we could see was a video game.
No, 100%. Because that's what really pulled me into it. I didn't really care so much about crypto and blockchain and all that, but the fact that I understood that gaming actually kind of, was being integrated into this whole blockchain space, that's what got me excited about it. That actually had it click for me because, I don't have much knowledge about, crypto and whatnot, but I love video games, right? And I know that I love owning skins. I love looking cool in video games, and just watching your content, kind of talking about bringing attention to that. This is the future. You can actually own your proper assets, and all this, blockchain tech can be implemented in the future. That's when I was like, that is it, that is it. And that's when I started to learn a little bit more about it. And actually, that's a good segue into your own personal project, your own baby, actually. Tell us a little bit about Impostors for the...
My alien baby.
Yeah, your alien baby. For the person who doesn't know what Impostors is, what is it and why should they actually care about trying it out?
So the reason why we built Impostors is, one, we started building it really early on in the pandemic. That was very clear that social gaming was going to be a big deal. And we saw the success of a game called Among Us. And we also got frustrated with Among Us as players, saying, well, why can't we do this? And why doesn't it have this feature? And why isn't there competitive mode? And why isn't there voice chats? And why can't you build your own maps? And why isn't there enough more content? And so we kind of had all these reasons why we got bored of Among Us and stopped playing, but we were pretty hardcore players. We really enjoyed it. I think like you saw games like every once in a while come around and they really expand the audience for gaming past like your prototypical kind of like battle royale, first person shooter type players. And Among Us really did that. And it really showed that there was a new type of gaming that could be a new type of, energy in these games that was more social. And I really believe that social is one of the biggest untapped markets in gaming and has one of the least sort of steep hills to climb because there's not as many AAA studios kind of competing there. We also see that, NFTs are mostly social things, right? People are looking for social validation with their NFTs. And so the idea of combining sort of like a new type of social game with NFTs, as well as, we have some sort of distant plans of how we want to empower content creators. As you know, Among Us became popular because of content creators. We talked to some of the biggest Among Us content creators in the world, actually the biggest ones. And we asked them straight up, what did you love about this and what brought you in and why did you stop playing it? Because a lot of them stopped playing it. And the answers were really clear that they ran out of content and that they ran out of situations and that they just didn't, there wasn't enough variance and there wasn't enough expandability. But what they did say and why they did like it was they made it really clear. They said, Elliot, that was the easiest content I've ever made in my life. That was the most fun, most relaxed I've ever been making gaming content because it was so easy and it was so fun. And so there's something there, right? There's something in that statement that as a content creator with these global audiences, that was a painkiller for them. That was something that actually made their life way easier and made it much easier to connect with and engage with their audience. And so when you think of it, a game being a content creation tool, and then you understand that this type of setup was super useful, but it just wasn't, there were things missing from the toolkit to continue that. That's where we see the opportunity is that streamers need content. Every day they wake up, they say, I needed content, I need something. And so by giving more tools within the social gaming ecosystem, the goal is to appeal to streamers. And by winning over streamers, you win the war. Because right now, NFTs have a social stigma, right? They have a stigma of being gambling, being overvalued, being hyper monetized, all these negatives, right? Whereas the truth is that NFTs are a super good thing for gamers. They add value to gamers. For example, I play a lot of Call of Duty as well. One of my accounts is like bugged and I've spent so much money in that account and I can't get, it keeps disconnecting from the server. So I had to create a new account and now all that money's gone, right? And so just another example of why it's like, obviously those are like obvious examples that we always bring up, but I just experienced it like literally recently. And it's annoying, right? Because, there's a lot of guns and items and stuff that I like to bring over and skins and stuff. But really what I see is there's a sort of cultural stigma, kind of like the electric car, where people were like, electric cars, yuck, and then we got finally, there's a bunch of versions of it. But finally, we got a cool one. And it was cool because cool people were buying it, right? And all of a sudden, no, this wasn't the nerd buying it. This wasn't the loser guy buying it. This was the cool guy buying it. This was the guy that was the rich, powerful, hotshot was buying the Tesla. And all of a sudden, Teslas became cool. And so I think it's one of those things where it's just like this cultural stigma where a cool game and will appeal to influencers and content creators. And once the content creators who really dictate gaming culture come around and go, nope, this is it. We love this. It's over, right? And the kids will love it because they do whatever these content creators say. And that's how a whole generation comes on. And so I think like the real target here is to focus on content creators and to give them tools. And by doing that, you'll end up kind of overcoming that stigma, which someone's got to do.
No, I 100% agree here. I mean, like, how I find games really is just by looking up online, right? You look up YouTube, Twitch. That's really how you get excited about games. And just gaming culture nowadays, I mean, people aren't really going to IGN or whatnot. They want to watch their whole favorite streamers actually stream these games. And what's really cool about Impostors is that you guys are being compared, of course, to Among Us. But the thing though is that Among Us really wasn't that innovative. I'm not saying it wasn't good or whatnot, but it was very, very rudimentary what it was. And to know that there's a lot more improvements that can be made, so you guys can actually still stay competitive. I mean, if you're making a first-person shooter, there's tons out there, it's so saturated, right? But social deduction, what's cool is that there's a very clear way that it can actually be fun. And on top of that as well, when content creators come into it, I mean, I get bored of games very easily. But what's interesting about social deduction video games is you add that whole human emotion, human reaction complexity. So now there's just endless content. Every game's a little different based off who you're playing with and how they want to actually play the game. So I think it's brilliant, whatever you're going. And in fact, that's actually one of the biggest reasons I'm so bullish on Imposter, so excited about it. Just because I can kind of see that whole stream from day one. I knew that this is kind of the angle you guys were going after the streamers. And that's just how gaming culture is right now. People are going to watch people play video games, and a game doesn't necessarily have to be that advanced graphically or whatnot. It just has to be fun. The streamers have to have fun playing it. And most importantly, people who are watching it have to actually have fun watching it as well. So plenty of laughs, right? Plenty of suspense. I mean, you don't know who's the imposter. So absolutely brilliant over here.
Yeah, and obviously, one of the great examples of item value is probably MMORPGs. But the fact is, you're not going to see a great MMORPG probably come from an indie studio because it's just really hard, right? It's really hard to compete. Whereas you have this game, like you said, the game in the genre is an ultra indie sort of, as you said, rudimentary game, And that's one of the things that we loved about this genre is we had our sort of basic version of this up and running pretty quickly, and getting from sort of 80% to 90%, 90% to 100% takes much longer than getting from 0 to 80%, which is kind of the funny part about game development. And so it's been really a nice journey, and we really look forward to the future. But what you see in the social deduction is really just kind of the tip. It's the beginning of what we're trying to create. Really, we are focused more generically as a platform with tools for social content creation. And that's kind of the way we perceive this. And social deduction is sort of that first stage of that. So Impostors is a really important game that we think will help people find NFTs in a non-threatening and fun way. But we also see sort of a hole in gaming culture and sort of content creation for gaming. And that's what we want to fill. It's not just hey, we want to make a crypto project. Let's go for a game we can create. It's hey, we would build this with no NFTs. We would build this with no Web3, but we also think it's really friendly and works well with Web3 as well, in addition. So we're passionate, and we think that there's a real lane for this product with or without NFTs. And we think that that's required for any success, because people are going to be even harder now, given the sort of ups and downs the industry has experienced. People will be even harder on NFT games than they would have. It's not like what people think, where they're oh, but there's NFTs, so they'll play it even if it's not as fun. I think it's the other way. I think because of the stigma now, people are going to be even harsher on it. And they're going to say, I would like it, but you know what? There's NFTs, and I've been told by one streamer that it's bad. And so there's a stigma to overcome.
So, I mean, that's actually a great way to kind of ask you. I mean, building a game itself is difficult, but implementing blockchain tech, NFTs, that just adds more to the fire over here. So really, through this whole process, you and your team, I know that it hasn't been a very easy road, but what really was the biggest challenges? I know once you launched Impostors, there was a lot of FUD going on, and even you as a content creator, it's kind of difficult. I mean, you put up a great Twitter post that, I would love people to kind of actually understand what's going on the other side of stuff, creating projects, creating content. It's not as easy as just putting something out and people just watching. There's a lot of thought that goes into it, a lot of challenges. So what really would you say, is the most challenging part of creating Impostors, or being a content creator, or simply being a thought leader, in the Web3 space?
Yeah, it's funny. You brought up a post, and that was, if you look at that person who put up this post, who, right before we launched, there was a post and it went viral. It got thousands of likes. Famous internet sleuths hopped on and were responding and hyping it up. And what I thought that was funny is the person had done zero research and was just essentially making things up, saying there was no game, there was no team, there was no nothing, and that it was all just essentially this influencer scam, right? And it ended up catching traction because it was something that everyone it sounds like something that people want to believe is happening, even though it was fake. And so it was a good example of just getting completely clobbered by the rumor mill. And then what was funny is we came out and showed proof of every single part of the game and everything we'd done. And then of course it's crickets, right? And then nobody was like, they never were like, I'm sorry or anything. And if you look through their tweet history, there was just like all their tweets were just like, negative, random, like anger towards like influencers and content creators in the space. And so that was kind of the context. Was it wasn't really about what was or wasn't the truth. It was about their sort of emotional release, and it went viral, right? And so I think that was one of the worst days of my life, was sort of looking at that after we had been working so hard to get Impostors live, and then being hit with essentially someone just deciding, hey, I'm just going to like go on a gut feeling and a whim. Maybe they didn't know that they were making up false statements, but it caught fire, right? And so that we just dealt with it. But then, what was the hardest part is, and continues to be, I think, the game development. We're fortunate because we have a really, really good Web3 team. We're about to come out with an NFT marketplace, and we had to delay it last week. It was supposed to come out on Friday of last week, but we delayed it because FTX collapsed and nobody wanted to hear about a product launch. It was kind of like, it almost felt disrespectful to try to launch a product while like the whole world's feeling like it's on fire. And so we're going to come out with that very shortly. But this is, without a doubt in my mind, the most advanced marketplace tech that we've ever seen. It's an immersive product experience, and it's really, really cool. And so what you'll see with that is that's the team that's also building the Web3 components for Impostors. So when it comes to like the Web3 side, I believe that, of course, there's geniuses all over this industry and they need to be applauded. But I do believe that our team has some really bright folks on them. I'm really proud of them. As we launch this marketplace, you'll start hearing from our architects and our smart contracts engineers and our, effectively the people who are leading these technical decisions. And you'll see, the way that they view the world, I think they're very advanced. And so it's not to say that the Web3 stuff is easy. It's hard. It's extremely hard. But we're lucky we just have a lot of firepower on that team because we've been building some more like tech in the space. And so when it comes to like how we're actually syncing items from the blockchain to the game, it's actually not, for us, like the system isn't that hard. And it's actually a pretty cool system that is, we would call it kind of a layer 2 technology, but we're not launching a layer 2 or a chain. It would fall into like another, you could compare it to other layer 2s out there, the way it works, but we've just built some cool stuff that is going to allow for people to play and enjoy the game and never have to touch the blockchain if they don't want to. But it also allows for them to withdraw items and sync them and enjoy the sort of decentralized world if they do want to. And, our biggest thing is we need to have players in the game. And so I would say the hardest thing has been the game development, because finding really talented game developers that are going to work well together and all that stuff has been an interesting journey. And that's probably been the hardest part is the game development itself. And I'm really proud of the game we have. I think we have the most fun game that I've played in Web3, and you've played more. You tell me, what are your favorite games in Web3?
No, seriously. I mean, I come from a very gamer-centric background, of course. So the bar is really, really high for me for these blockchain video games, because immediately I'm going to compare it to the traditional shiny video games that I got. So if your video game doesn't match up, I'm just going to go to my PS5. I'm just going to go on my PC. I'm going to play the actual regular video games. So
100%.
that's why I'm so harsh on video games. I know that, I'm probably throwing FUD on different projects saying like you're not gonna, but it's the truth. I mean, like, you have to be able to attract the regular users on that, and I see Impostors being able to do that based off all the reasons that we talked about. So that's why I'm so excited about project. And what's pretty awesome as well is that you kind of built Impostors with this mindset in mind, right? You did it wasn't just like, hey, I'm just gonna come up with a game or whatnot. This was carefully crafted. It was very strategic how I'm kind of seeing you guys do, because you're implementing the marketplace, you're really thinking about how you can actually grow it, talking about the streamers before you built it and whatnot. So this was very carefully like planned out, which is why I'm very excited to kind of see where things roll with it.
We actually built a game in 2018 and 2019 that was an arena battler. We started kind of like looking at CryptoKitties and sort of generative characters. And then we kind of like expanded from there. And we said, oh, let's get, generative characters in our game and let's make them really cute. And then we're like, oh, wow, we started building in the game engine because we could make such cool 3D art. We're like, oh, let's make it so we can do dances and stuff. And then we just got obsessed with the game engine. We really became obsessed with Unreal Engine as like founders. And we were just like, holy smokes, we can actually build a really sick game. And so it kind of like started with just making kind of a collectible. And then we ended up realizing how powerful the engines were and how advanced they were and how much amazing content we could create. And we were like, by the time it was like, middle end 2018, we're like, no, we're building a game. And so I would spend pretty much all morning making content. And then all evening I was doing classes as well as coding in the engine. And within the span of a year, I became pretty capable, obviously not an expert, but I became pretty capable at coding in Unreal Engine. And so I built all of like the motion blueprints and the abilities blueprints and systems. And I ended up getting it to a point where we had some pretty epic content going on in the game. And I built out several of the player classes. And so that was how we got to the point where we got a small sort of angel round investment from, Animoca was one of those companies and some other folks. And so we were able to get it there by, effectively just grinding, right? We grinded, me and my partner. And then at one point in 2020, we just looked at each other and we said, you know what? This is not going to go mainstream. We said, this is great. This has been an amazing experience. And we were like, we started with this and then we built it in that. And then by the end, I still think if we would have showed that trailer of our game and then just tried to do like a mint for it, it would have been really successful. But we just didn't feel it was going to be a successful title. And so we didn't want to be in a position of pushing something we weren't confident in. And so we were like, okay, let's just stop. We've done this. We've done 2 years now, 16 hours a day working on this. Let's call that, our learning experience. And let's now take a step back and say, well, what would we build if we were going to start over? And we'd say, we don't envy the people building MMOs. They have an impossible task. We don't envy people building battle royales and first-person shooters. It's so saturated. It's an impossible task. But there is this new game that we started playing, and we really became obsessed with it. And we're like, wow, this is a real place where we could innovate and take the lead, maybe. And so we sort of started looking at gaming as a whole, and we're like, no, this is a place where if crypto and blockchain weren't around, we think we could succeed here. And so that was how we got to starting on Impostors. And within about 3-4 months, we had a fully sort of playable game loop. And then it took quite a while longer to get things to the point where we thought it was like touchable by the public, and we could have put it out again in 2021 and sort of like the peak of things. But we ended up waiting until we just thought it was really like until we were having enough fun in it that we were like, okay, this is really fun. And so, yeah, that's just it. And it's hard to wait as a founder. It's hard to hold back your bullets to fire, but it's been a great journey. And I'm really happy that when we started the project and we actually had an NFT launch, the game was already playable, right? And so it was already not done, but it was a beta version of it was done. And so I don't envy projects that are, struggling and sort of, just starting when they come to market. I think that it's a really incredibly high pressure scenario to put yourself in. And I'm just really happy that we had this experience. And I think that if, we got not lucky, but because we were so early on the trend, we had time to kind of evaluate the playing field. And I think we made decisions that I believe will be the right ones when we look back.
That's amazing to hear about. I mean, the bar that you guys set is so high just for yourself. And I love hearing that from a founder. And while you're actually talking about all this, I can feel a lot of passion, sincerity in your voice. And actually, that's a big reason why I follow you on YouTube and a lot of people as well. There's a lot of sincerity to what you're telling us. You really want to help the average individual. You really want your game to be fun. Like, where is this all coming from? And why are you just so passionate about getting this product out, making sure it's perfect, making sure people like it? Because some people just want to put something out easy, make some money, but there's something that's a little different about you, which also shows you why that you have such a big following as well. So why are you so passionate about the space and video games and imposters?
Thanks for that question, man. First of all, thank you. That means a lot. Like, I think people generally think that once you reach like a certain level of following or a certain level of notoriety, that like you don't necessarily like live in the same like world or you operate by different rules. But I'm pretty simple. Like when people say something like negative about me, like I think about it. I go, wait, why would they say that? And if people say something positive about me, I go, wow, that's really nice of them. And so, like I very much appreciate all the feedback positive. And when people give me negative feedback, I try to adjust and internalize it, maybe even more so than I really should. But yeah, I mean, look, I have something to prove to myself and to everyone that I want to build a real use case for crypto. I believe that this is a really unique opportunity to be here at the beginning of the blockchain industry. I think that it's a huge invention and it's a huge step forward, the sort of decentralized internet. And I think we have very, very, very barely scratched the surface of like how stuff's going to really impact normal users. And even though it feels like, hey, this has been going on a while, it really hasn't. There's a part of me that would feel like if I don't produce something of tremendous value, having had the perspective and knowledge that this is going to be like, I'm so convinced that this is the way the internet is going to develop, that I kind of put the pressure on me that even without funding behind me at the start, or even without a long history as a game dev as a start, I was like, I will just walk through a wall just to make this happen. And that's how I got from doing nothing to coding, motion blueprints and getting everything just working in a game within the span of just a few months or about a year. And so I think it's just one of those things of life of like, when you become excited enough about an idea, that alone is all you need to succeed at it. And so I really genuinely believe that. And so I'm just possessed with the idea that gaming is going to completely be disrupted by crypto and NFTs. And once I sort of saw the world that way, I couldn't unsee it. And so I would feel like the days that I'm not pushing forward towards that goal, I feel like I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. And the days that I feel like I've pushed closer to that goal, it's like, I feel like I'm sort of like walking down the right path. And, I'm just a guy, I'm just like you. And I just found this industry earlier. And I just really believe that this is the way the world goes. And there's a lot of people who now agree with me. It's now like almost like an oversaturated opinion, like talking about crypto gaming is like boring, but I'm like, guys, we still don't have a hit crypto game. So like, let's all keep working towards it. Like, I think it's like one of those things where people, once they hear something a few times, they just kind of get bored of it, but getting bored of it doesn't mean that it's already happened. And so, yeah, there's just a lot of work to do. And I don't know, I just became obsessed with this idea. I feel like we're lucky, and I don't want to feel like I missed the opportunity to participate in one of the biggest changes that's happening. Like, I'm not building robotics, or I'm not building AI. I'm not building, like, I don't know how to do those other things, but I believe I can help with this.
Mm-hmm. Drop the mic there, man. Seriously. Yeah, no, I mean, just hearing you talk like that, I mean, that's really why I got into the space as well. We're so early, right? There's so much more to discover, and that's exciting. Even though it's difficult, even though it's a long road, there's kind of some magic to it, not really knowing where the industry is going, but still pushing forward, just like exactly what you and your team are doing. And just for me as well, kind of following along, learning piece by piece. I mean, I don't know anything about crypto, but I love freaking video games. And I know that this totally makes sense. Asset ownership in video games will be the future. You guys heard it here first if you haven't yet before. But seriously, this is what I think that gaming is going to look like. And once more people catch on to it, because I'm a gamer, and if I understood it, I don't see why other people are not going to get it. It just has to be the right game or the right person telling them that. Hence all the streamers, imposters. I love all the development of everything that you're doing, man. But I think that's a good place to actually start to end off over here. Do you have anything else you want to tell us? What's next for Impostors? What's next for your channel? And really, what do you want to kind of tell to the people watching this video?
Yeah, I mean, like, I've been making content and running these projects at the same time now for a long time. And really, I'm probably going to focus a little bit more on the project side, because I believe that that's really what gets us to that next step. And I think that people using stuff that they like just because they like it, and just because they enjoy it, or just because it's a product that that adds to their day, I think that's the next step for the industry. So the content creators like yourself, they need something solid to stand on, just like I as a content creator need that something solid to stand on. And so I'm going to be focused really hard on just building this game, and you'll see very soon the marketplace we've built, and you'll see that we need more users, and then we need to serve them with better products. And so that's the sort of two sides of how I see the products we're building is, gaming can help bring in new users. And then once they're here, let's give them better stuff to exist within the Web3 space. And so, I would encourage everyone to understand that, like, people view me as a builder, but I started as just a fan, right, of the industry. And so if you feel passionately, this industry really, it goes through this sort of like, spring and winter, spring, summer, winter thing really, really fast, where there's everything blooms and everything dies really quickly. And in these sort of changeover periods, there's always opportunities for people to become a part of the industry. So I think what you're doing is a great job. And I think, your growth as a content creator is just obvious. And so congrats to you. Watch 𝗪𝐿. That's what you should be doing. And thanks so much for having me.
Dude, thank you. Yeah, so make sure you guys check out the description below for all the links over there. Please go ahead and follow Elliotrades. I always wondered, is it Elliotrades or is it Elliotrades?
It's Elliotrades just kind of feels like it doesn't roll, but like it has the T there. So it was like, I just kind of like, people started calling me Ellio, and I just kind of went with it because I was like, cool, whatever. But my name's Elliot, but it is right there in the name. And if you want to call me Elliotrades, Elliotrades, whatever works for you.
Yep. Follow him on YouTube, follow him on Twitter. Probably one of the best kind of content creators and all the information that you will need to survive, not through just the bear market and the crypto market, but just understand where the gaming space is headed in this world. So thank you again so much, Elliotrades. I look forward to what you do with Impostors, what you actually do in terms of your content. And I really look forward to having a long relationship with you and just seeing your growth, man.
Thank you so much, Christian. Take care, brother.
You too, brother. Take care.
Peace.